Welcome to another episode of Tomes and Tunes. Welcome to episode 36. My guest this week is Cynthia Brando. And of course, Tomes and Tunes is all about music, one of my loves, and books, another love. I found out that a lot of songwriters like to talk about books. And so this show was born 36 episodes ago. I am very excited to announce that this week I have brought in a media partner, Far West, the Regional Folk Alliance organization for the west coast of the continent. And I'm super excited and grateful to have Far West in with us as a partner, and really glad to see you. So if you are tuning in today, please say hi in the chat box. Let me know where you are watching from and how you're doing. We are still in January. It's amazing. Just the beginning of the year. We're just getting started. So I'm going to bring in Cynthia Brando, songwriter from California, and we are going to do what we do here, talk books and songs. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi. Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, and congrats on the 36th episode.
36.
It's a lot.
You know, it just started as a whim. Actually, it started before the concept was even hatched. Basically, I the first episode, it was on Instagram at the time, and a songwriter, Ann Stott, who I had met during quarantine. We met through a Zoom, kind of meeting, I guess, or group. And she came in and we talked about music, and then naturally we started talking about books, and both of us, where our cameras were set up on that particular episode, there were bookcases behind both of us. So we just started talking about Jane Austen and, some other authors, and someone chimed in the chat and said, "Oh, Tomes and Tunes," and I was just like, "Oh gosh, now that it's been said, we got to do it." So that's the origin story.
It's hard to get something like this going. There's so many components.
Absolutely, and you have firsthand experience.
That's why I was saying that. I was like, yep, I know what you're going through.
So that was actually how you and I pretty much met. You had or have a podcast called Music Emerging, and you told me a little bit about it in our green room conversation, but I didn't realize it had started as a magazine.
Yeah, way back when. So I moved here in 2014. And then a year later, I was trying to get out into the community of musicians like myself, try to meet people. I didn't know anyone in LA. And I had this idea of doing the magazine so I could have the kind of shield of interviewing people and therefore meeting them, because it's a little bit hard for me. It gives me anxiety just to kind of go out to a club and meet someone or pretty much anywhere. And so I kind of used it as a tool starting off. And I would interview people, and then of course you have these wonderful conversations and you get to know them, and sometimes they last through the interview. So I did 3 magazines in print and online, and I just started this whole hub with Music Emerging. I wanted it to be a portal of emotional support resources, which I think is really important. And so I did a lot of things with that. We had workshops, and then I started the podcast, and I think I had about 20 episodes at least of the podcast. And then for the new year, I decided that I'm dismantling the whole thing, which is crazy, but it wasn't taking me where I wanted to go, and it just became too much of a hodgepodge of so many things, and I just decided to kind of let it go. This is what this year is about for me, is just letting a lot of stuff go.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the creative process that I don't know that people really talk about this part actually that much, which is the idea of shifting visions, and how it's far from a failure to travel down a road for 5 years, magazine, podcast, events, and to start, as you go further on the road and as time passes, you sort of clarify what your new visions are, or you start
Right.
you assess along the way, oh, is this, what was my original vision, this sounds like a great idea. And then as you go, just like on any journey, it's like the scenery's changing as you're on the path, and you
That's
get to a point
true.
where you're like, hey, this is actually not, okay, now it's time for me to veer off this path. That was cool.
Yeah, and you do feel guilty, that kind of washes over you because it's something that was very important to me, and it still is, but it's something that I can't do anymore. I need to move on, and like
Yeah.
like you said, just recreate this vision that I had, and I was just taking on too many things with it,
Yeah.
and lots of things, like it's a whole nother website and all these resources and different components of it, the podcast, and I would write a blog. I did that for a year. I wrote a blog every year. So I'm actually taking some of those things from Music Emerging, and I might put them into a book, so it's not going to be totally lost, but I just need to kind of let it go and redefine what I'm doing and what my new goals are.
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. And this is like, the time of year, I think that feels, I mean, you could do that at any time of year, but the beginning of
Sure.
the year just feels really cathartic. Like that's the time to sort of let the old fall away and let the new, whatever it is, just kind of emerge. And then, there's that other part of that, which is that you did go on that journey for a long time. So obviously there was a lot that you learned, either just from the technology or from your own creative impulse or from those conversations that you had
That's true.
with people.
Yeah, I learned that I was good at all these different things that I didn't know I was good at. I learned that I was good interviewing someone and writing a magazine article. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
And then the podcast, I'm really good with talking to people, and I could be really shy. So, and of course, I didn't start off that way, like extroverted right away, but I kind of came into it gradually as I went along. So again, like just doing it and then learning and then getting more comfortable, and then my personality came out more, like through the podcast and through these different things that I was doing. And
Yeah.
so it was really helpful in my journey just as a person, moving to LA and not knowing anyone, being really shy, not even wanting to go out. And then having that project really helped kind of blossom into the community and getting to know people and learning more about myself and different things that I'm good at in the music industry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of years and years ago when I was starting as a singer-songwriter. I was in my, like probably around 20 years old. And I was not yet at the level where I could confidently seek booking at a venue. But I knew that in order to get good at performing, I needed to perform. And I also had another kind of handicap, I guess, which was that I had gripping stage fright whenever
Yes.
I did get up in front of people. And so I realized that, I just knew, I mean, it's how inconvenient is it when the thing that you feel is your calling is like, in direct opposition to your comfort zone.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't perform for 10 years because of stage fright.
Yeah, so the way that I mean, sort of like the creation of your magazine and Music Emerging, the way that I helped myself to get comfortable with performing was that I decided to just start busking. I was living in Boston,
Okay.
and I started playing on the street in Cambridge and Harvard Square and in the subways, and I did that for a couple of years and got comfortable performing in front of people. What I found, this was kind of the funny thing, what I found was that when I started playing on stages in venues, if the stage was raised even a little, like a foot off the ground, I got that gripping stage fright again. So then I had to kind of like literally level up and start getting comfortable with the
Yeah, that would happen
raised
to me,
stages.
but it would be
Yeah.
because I was wearing too short of a skirt. And then I would start to freak out.
That's so funny. I know, I've wondered about those short skirt performers.
With the raised stages.
Yeah, bring on the maxi
Like,
dress.
oh shit, I messed up here.
That's so funny. Totally. So you moved to LA in, did you say 2014?
Well, it was at the very end of 2013. So I
Okay.
moved here like the last pretty much during Halloween. So another couple months and then it was 2014. So
Yeah.
around that time.
Where were you living before?
I moved here from Humboldt. Do you know where that is in
Yeah,
Northern
way up
California?
north. Yeah.
Way up north,
Way
yeah.
up north.
So I lived there for 8 years and then I moved here.
Oh, wow, Humboldt is pretty rural if I'm remembering correctly, right? Like
Yes, it's very rural.
very rural.
It's the
And
complete opposite of LA.
so what brought you to LA?
Music.
We got some music here.
I mean, there's music in Humboldt, of course, but
What
I
else are
wanted
you
to
gonna
learn.
do?
I wanted to learn more about the music industry, and I wanted to, as the saying goes, if you want to play ball, you got to go to the ball field.
Mm,
Is that how it goes?
I have
Something
no
like
idea,
that.
but
I wanted to play ball, so I wanted to play music, and there's
Yeah.
very limited venues in Humboldt and the area. I mean, it's kind of weird to think about because now it almost doesn't even matter because I went on tour, and to make money, I had to leave LA to go make money touring.
yeah.
But as far as music industry people, and that was really valuable for me right off the bat, just meeting people and networking and going to NAMM, which is here, and going to Far West, which was here for a couple years, and
Yeah.
just all that. There's just more. There's so much more here because it's a big city.
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah. And you're not originally from Humboldt though. Are you from
No,
Northern
I'm from the
California?
East Coast.
Oh, you are. You're an East
Yeah,
Coast girl.
I'm not from Boston. Or
Okay.
Are you from Boston, or you just live there?
Everywhere.
Okay,
Where
yeah,
are you
me
from?
too.
I
I'm
probably
from
lived there.
Philadelphia
I lived in
and
Lancaster.
New Jersey. In Lancaster?
I lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania for a
Yeah.
little while, and then New Jersey for a while growing up.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Born in Philly, and then I never lived in Philadelphia, but my sister lives there. And it was very unfortunate because I haven't been to the East Coast in over 10 years, and I'm from there, and I have a ton of family that still lives there.
Yeah.
But, my family all lives in Idaho, my brothers and sisters, all that. And then, Humboldt's kind of my home. My best friend lives there. So by the time I do that in a year, go visit my family, go visit my best friend, it's like the East Coast, it was just too costly to do and fit in another trip.
Yeah.
And then finally, I was going to do that. It's like, I'm going to fit in that trip, and I'm going to tour the East Coast. And then the COVID happened. I had almost my whole tour booked.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where were you planning on touring, and when were you supposed to kick off?
I was supposed to leave in July,
Okay.
I think. The end, yeah. Well, yeah, because I was going to do 2 tours. So the first part was the West Coast, and then I think I was supposed to leave July something and then go to a music festival, something Ridge. Maybe you know it. What is it?
Falcon Ridge?
Falcon Ridge, thank you. I was going to go to Falcon Ridge and hang out there and then play in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, go on this big road trip. I was taking my best friend with me. She's never been to the East Coast.
Yeah.
New York City, I had a couple shows booked there. Connecticut, I think, Rhode Island.
When you said New York City just now, literally in my head, I thought the Big Apple.
The Big Apple.
It's just like those letters kind of lit up. The Big Apple.
Yeah,
So it was going to be a big adventure, a big road trip, and
Yeah. I was really upset about it, but then it was kind of interesting the way things happened with this virus and things shutting down. I've been on tour the last 3 years, and I love it, and I love performing in LA. I like everything about it, but it was starting to get really taxing. And as I enter my mid 40s, not that that's a thing, but it's like I've been at this for a good 7 years, and I haven't stopped or slowed down. Anyone that knows me knows how busy I am all the time and how much I do, and it forced me to take a break. And
Yeah.
I was kind of glad that happened. Because I just needed it, and I just needed to slow down. And I'm one of those, I mean, I don't know how other people are doing, but I'm actually one of the few people that I've spoken to that is kind of nervous about things opening up again and getting back to normal. I've been really enjoying having this time at home.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not, driving to a gig with all my gear and setting it up. And, I used to busk a lot too, all that. And then, I love performing, but it was just, with the day job and stuff, it was getting really hard.
Yeah, I feel
So,
that this time, I mean, the sadness and devastation of the global health crisis and the economic crisis, the twinned crises. That aside, this time of, especially last March in California, where everything just kind of ground to a halt, and literally the airplanes, were grounded, the traffic stopped. There was this sense, I think, that a lot of people here felt, alongside, of course, the anxiety or overwhelm that people were feeling with the crises. There was also this sense of, like, wow, I was going really fast for a long time, and
yeah.
now it just, I think that there were a lot of people. I heard this from a lot of people, that they were really grateful for the quiet, for the time to just stop and reevaluate. They had been moving so fast that they hadn't had time to kind of do that internal check-in, that introspective question, am I doing what I want to be doing, and like, where are my values, what is important to me, and
Yeah.
what kind of life do I want to be living? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, when it first happened, I mean, I lost my income in a day. I had to, apply for unemployment, but of course, that's not going to get you very far. And so I was scrambling just to find jobs on my own. So I did some crazy stuff for the first few months, and then I eventually got my job back to where I can do it on Zoom. But I mean, it's easier for me. I don't have kids, and so it's just it is easier for me. But I mean, I really feel for people that got the rug lifted from under them. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know how they're surviving out there, honestly. Um, so
I think some people are not, and some people are,
yeah,
and some of that is creative problem solving, and some of it is just kismet. It's
yeah,
some of it is support from whatever
right,
resources
yeah.
are offering support. Yeah,
A bunch of people I know moved.
Yep.
They moved
Yeah.
away, so they're getting
Yeah.
support from a family or whatever.
Yeah.
And me, one of my surviving things I'm doing to survive is, and this is one of the things that's interesting. I just stopped spending money. It's amazing how much money you can have when you just don't spend it. And so I was doing that. It's like, I realized that I was spending a lot of money, like going out and doing stuff in LA, which is really fun, of course. I love doing that. But just going out to eat, I simplified everything. And that was one of my strategies kind of surviving this period, is just not spending a lot of money.
Yeah. So you said that you're a little, I can't remember what word you used. You might have said concern about when things open up again and going back out into the world. My question for you is, what are you most looking forward to about that time, when when everything is open, when we are moving with ease, and what is the number one thing that you're going to miss?
Well, the thing that I'm really looking forward to is seeing everyone again.
Yeah.
And it almost makes me cry to think of the moment when I walk into, wherever, Matt Denny's, where we're talking about backstage, where everyone gathers to hear music, and just seeing that crowd and just be like, wow, this, it's going to be so surreal. And so that'll be a special moment that, even though I just said that I've kind of enjoyed this period of not performing, I mean, it will be nice to see everyone again, to go to a party and hang out with people. I do miss that a lot.
Yeah.
And then you asked me what am I going to miss?
Yeah, so fast forward into the future, when you're there at Matt Denny's and you're seeing everybody, what will you, upon reflection in that moment, what will you miss about this moment now?
Well, I'm terrified that I'm just going to revert back to some old bad habits.
Oh, yeah.
And just start
Get
right
on
up
that
again.
wheel again and spinning, right?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I want to take these lessons that I've learned for this year of slowing down and see if I can apply them to when things open up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I feel like I've spent this whole time, in the shed where I am right now. I've spent the last, what is it, 9 months, 10 months, um, you know, trying to clarify my values. I mean, I feel like I'm always in a value clarification process, but very much so that when things open up again, I am living in alignment with that. You know, I am an introvert, and so, I think that the people who are, from a psychological standpoint, who are really suffering right now are the extroverts. I was talking to my aunt
Yes.
the other day. She is a huge extrovert, and she's just, she's really uncomfortable, not, for her, going to her hairdresser. She lives in New York. Going to her hairdresser right now is the highlight of, her weeks. For me as an introvert, I am, very happy about, I get a lot of energy just from being here in the shed and working on songs and working, but I, even so, really miss that, especially one-on-one connection with people in person, that body language that you can't quite capture in these, kind of Zoom calls and stuff like that. I teach at Antioch University. I teach creative writing and creativity research studies, and one of my students who was in my summer course had also taken a fall course with me and ended up dropping the fall course, and we were having some emails back and forth afterwards. I was checking in, making sure that the student was okay, and what they said was that it just was wearing on them, that it was just so hard because you can't, we're limited to the verbal language and maybe facial expressions of people, but we're not getting that sense of like leaning in or pulling back, or just like the ways that those unspoken nonverbal ways of communicating. I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to that. I love we have bodies, we're not just talking heads, we have bodies.
Yeah,
exactly. And I really miss the bodies.
We're not news reporters.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, and also, I mean, live music. I mean, there's as as a performing musician, I'm sure that you can relate to this. It's like when we perform our music, in through this kind of channel, we can get the chat box, responses, and that's so valuable. Like, I love, hi Mark, hi Susie, hi Dave, so great to see you. Thank you for chiming into the chat box, because that's the only feedback we're getting. Whereas when we're in a live room, I keep thinking back to one of the last gigs I played, which was at Hotel Cafe. It's like you can see the the people in the room, you can see them moving, you can see if they're engaged with the music or if they're distracted, if they're crying, if they're laughing at something that you said or sang, and and then also afterwards you can kind of have that other response where I do believe that music is a conversation. And so when we're on stage and we have the microphone, we're the ones speaking, but afterwards when we get off that stage, the people who are there in the room with us, they get to tell us their side of the conversation, and I miss that exchange.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
there's no dialogue like there used to be, with all that you just said, body language, and it is different just talking. A lot of people, like for me, I mean, I've worked on it a lot, but I express myself better in writing than I do verbally.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, I haven't done a lot of online concerts or things like that, kind of because of that fact.
Yeah. Well, you're going to do a little one today. You're going to play a song for us later.
Right?
So that'll be cool. But first, I want to, in keeping with the theme of the show, tomes. We'll get to the tomes first, then we'll get to the tunes afterwards. We were talking a little bit about your book, how shall I say it, relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
Before the show went live. So you love books.
I do.
But you're not
I don't
you're
read
not
them.
a huge reader.
I like to joke, like someone will recommend a book to me, and the first thing I'll say is, does it have a lot of pictures? And if they say yes, I'll say, I'll check that out. But no, it's not so bad. I like to joke, but it's funny because I love writing, and I love literature, and I love collecting books, but it's the time thing, you know. At night, if I read a book, I'm out in like 3 sentences if I read a book at night. And then, so what I got into the habit of doing over the years, and it's sort of in line with my life, is my spiritual life, because I practice Buddhism, and I started to read these spiritual books at a very young age. And what I like about spiritual books is that you can open up to any page and read 3 sentences, and it's got to kind of make sense, or you don't have to read it like a story necessarily. You just read a passage and you can think about it all day. And so I started that really worked with my life. And then I would read longer books or novels or whatever when I had a long break. So I do substitute teaching now as a day job, so I have my summers off. So that's when I'll read my big novel or whatever I want to read.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a large collection of spiritual books. So a lot of books by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's kind of a famous Buddhist writer. So I have a lot of books by him. And then just a lot of weird books. My ex-husband gave me these Dr. Kaushik books. And that was his guru in the 60s. And I love these books because, again, I'll just open up to a random page, and it's pretty much, you can just find a passage, and what I'll do is I'll read it and I'll just think about it all day. You know, so I just opened this up and it says, so it's important to understand that going beyond conditioning or being free of conditioning is not an ideal to be achieved, because on certain levels, conditioning persists and does not create a problem. And it's like, okay, I can think about that all day. You know, it just kind of works for me and my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I love spiritual books, so I have a lot of those. Yeah. And then I have another author I want to share.
I think you have some comrades here in the chat box. Susie says that.
Oh, yeah?
Susie says, I have to admit, I have a lot of books I have yet to read. And Mark says, he says, I think we go to the same library. Reading puts me to sleep in about half a page.
Yeah, it's a problem. Yeah, I can't see the chat, unfortunately, but hello out there. But yeah, so my favorite author is Pema Chodron, and she's a Buddhist nun, and she writes a lot of books. And you can tell which book is kind of my Bible. This is the most beat up one, and this is When Things Fall Apart, which is kind of my go-to book because things are always coming together and falling apart. Yeah. So I actually read this book a lot. And again, it's like I don't have to worry about reading the whole thing because there's stories in it, but it's not a beginning, middle, end book. Yeah. So you can literally just go to any chapter and read a paragraph and just think about it all day.
Absolutely. Yeah, very, they're meant to be contemplated.
Yeah, so I have a lot of books like that. I have a lot of books on art. Again, pictures. You can look at the pictures. Yeah. And then again, with art, it's like my mind will just open so wide. I like a lot of abstract art. And yeah, so if I look at a piece of abstract art in a book, I could just stare at it, and then I'll just carry that throughout the day. And then maybe I'll go online and read about that artist or something. You know, so I'm kind of that person.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're making me think right now as songwriters, you know, our songs are only about 3 or 4 minutes long, maybe 5. They're usually centered around usually a singular idea of some sort. You know, if you could distill every song that we write down to one line, I bet we could. You know,
right.
You know, what's that song essentially saying? You know, what is the seed of it?
I'm a succinct person. What can I say?
Yeah, exactly.
Not really. That's fun. That's funny because I'm not at all.
Yeah, but you're talking about in terms of your consumption of something. It's like you want to consume something and kind of ruminate on that thing. You know, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm a ruminator.
You're a ruminator. Mark says, Cynthia, thank you for doing this today. It makes my day a little brighter.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Who's
this
that?
is
Mark.
Mark. He's in Dallas. Thank you, Mark, for
Oh,
being
nice.
here. We got a couple of Dallas folks here. Susie is also in the Dallas area. Nice to see you guys. Who else is listening? Dave, I'm so glad Falcon
Let me
Ridge
look on
is
my
great.
Facebook here.
So awesome. Um, so great to see you guys chiming in.
My social media world is dead.
So do you want to read a passage to us from one of those?
Well, because you said on the description of this live stream that you wanted to know what we're currently reading.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually am currently reading. So what I was saying backstage to Arielle is that when she asked me to do this a couple months ago, my goal was to read a book to prepare for this live stream, this show, and I made it about a little over halfway. And it's a book, not a spiritual book, but well, sort of. Let me show you. So a lot of people might be familiar with this author if you saw the movie or read the book Eat, Pray, Love. So by Elizabeth Gilbert. She's a pretty famous author. And when my friend suggested this book, Big Magic, and it was by her, I'm like, I hated that piece of crap movie, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like this book. I already decided that I wasn't gonna like this author because of that movie. I just saw the movie, I didn't like it. But anyway, I started reading this book because it's about creativity, and it's kind of a self-help book about creativity. And my friend is letting me borrow this book, and it's amazing. It's an amazing book that everyone should read, really, whether you're creative or not. But I love this book because it talks about how much pressure we put on ourselves as creative people, especially when you're pursuing it, like we both are, as a career choice, that we put so much pressure on ourselves and our creativity, and creativity is not meant to put pressure on. And it's just, it was really eye-opening for me reading this book. It really makes sense as far as what I've been doing with my creativity. I have this love-hate relationship, and it should never be hate. It should be enjoyable. It should be beautiful experience. And yet I put so much pressure on myself to succeed, and that has destroyed a lot of creative experiences for me. And so this book kind of gives you permission not to act like that. And
Yeah.
so I picked a passage out from it. I'm about a little over halfway through. But let's see, this little mini chapter is called Pinned Beneath the Boulder. I think society did a great disservice to artists when we started saying that certain people were geniuses instead of saying they had geniuses. That happened around the Renaissance, when the rise of a more rational and human-centered view of life. The gods and the mysteries fell away, and suddenly we put all the credit and blame for creativity on the artists themselves, making the all-too-fragile humans completely responsible for the vagaries of inspiration. In the process, we also venerated art and artists beyond their appropriate stations. The distinction of being a genius, and the rewards and status often associated with it, elevated creators into something like a priestly caste, perhaps even into minor deities, which I think is a bit too much pressure for mere mortals, no matter how talented. That's when artists really start to crack, driven mad and broken in half by the weight and weirdness of their gifts. When artists are burdened with the label of genius, I think they lose the ability to take themselves lightly, this is my problem, or to create freely. Consider Harper Lee, for instance, who wrote nothing for decades after the phenomenal success of To Kill a Mockingbird. In 1962, when Lee was asked how she felt about the possibility of ever writing another book, she replied, "I'm scared." She also said, "When you're at the top, there's only one way to go." It's like, I don't want to be like Harper Lee. That sounds bad. It's not, you know what I mean, though.
Have you seen Elizabeth Gilbert's TED Talks, the 2 TED Talks that she has?
No.
One that she might have done both of them prior to the publication of Big Magic. For sure one of them, and the first TED Talk is talking about that genius idea that she's talking about right
Okay.
there in that passage. But I think you would really enjoy it. It's very
Yeah.
inspiring TED Talk. It's awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna
Um,
check that out.
yeah, and I agree. Big Magic is a wonderful book.
Oh, you read it?
Yeah, yeah, and there are a lot. I mean, Elizabeth Gilbert is very. She just has such an easy facility with language. She's a very entertaining writer. Um, when she's talking, especially about the creative process. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that in. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I read well, I might have read this. Do I have it with me? Where are all my books? Oh, there it is. Let's see if I can find. I might have read this quote last week, but it feels very appropriate to read it again this week. Grr. I wrote it down actually. So this is from related to your creativity thing. This
Oh
is
my
a book
God,
called
I have that
Free
book.
Play by Stephen Nachmanovich.
Have not read it. I have it, though.
I assign it to my students in
Okay.
our creativity research.
I read the back.
Let's see here. What does it say? Oh, okay. Good for you. Quotes are on the back. But there's a quote somewhere. You don't have to read the book. I'll just give you this quote. It's a great takeaway. Actually, it comes kind of far toward the end of the book. He says, "We simply have to have it, crazy as it may seem at times. Faith in the rightness of our aim, in the ultimate fittingness of the obstacles, tests, and lessons that present themselves along the way, and in the integrity and mystery of our own evolution."
Wow.
So that book, I think that you are probably going to enjoy Big Magic more, but this book should be right next to it on your
Yeah, I
shelf.
bought that on eBay like 6 months ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Recently.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
I forget
hi,
how I.
Sharman.
Yeah, I
Sharman's
forget how I stumbled upon it, but I was like, I got to read this book.
good one for your collection. Oh, Charmin, what's the name? This one is called Free Play. The subtitle is Improvisation in Life and Art. And Charmin, I think that you would love this book as a musician improviser, by Stephen Nachmanovich. He talks a lot about jazz, and Charmin.
Not related to Peter Bogdanovich.
Uh, who is that?
Oh, one of my favorite directors.
Oh, okay. Who knows? Maybe. That's awesome. I love it. I love when a surprising number of guests on this show have brought in spiritually contemplative books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's actually been a surprising theme that has come up, and of course, welcome, absolutely enjoyable. I don't know what I was. I don't think that I was exactly expecting anything when I started this show. As I mentioned earlier, it kind of just naturally evolved into what it is. And so I love that when I say, we're talking about books. Like, some people bring in poetry, some people bring in novels, some people, someone brought in an art book actually recently, and so it's pretty cool. You kind of get all the types.
This is a jewel book by Henry Miller. This is a rare book. This is a gem in my collection. I don't even know if you can find this book anymore. I got it probably 20 years ago. To Paint is to Love Again. It's a spiritual art book.
Oh, wow.
Highly recommend trying to find it. It's pretty short, but it also has amazing paintings by Henry Miller, because he was also not just a great author, but a painter.
That's awesome. I don't think I knew that. I have not heard of that book. Very cool.
Yeah, it's a neat book. And I got to share one more book, though.
Yeah, please do. That's what we're
Okay,
here for.
so this is not my book, but it's in my household. It's a book that I bought from my boyfriend, and it's so special. It's by this company called Genesis Publications, and Genesis's thing was to produce a very limited amount of books, specialty books, huge books, and they would produce about 5,000, and then once they sold out, that's it. And so this is a really heavy book.
Both
So
hands.
this book comes in a velvet bag,
Wow.
and it's called Blinds and Shutters. And it's a book that was written in 1980, and it's about the photographs and the life of Michael Cooper, who hung out in the English scene mostly with the great bands, the Rolling Stones, all those bands back in the day in England. And this book is about his life, and it has a ton of his photographs. And it's really cool because if you get this book, you can't get it. I mean, so I got it because, like I said, they don't release the book anymore once it's sold out. But for this book, it's like a 30-year anniversary thing, and they re-released like 500 copies or something.
Wow.
And I got one.
It looks
And
heavy. Looks
yeah,
very
it's
heavy.
super big and heavy. And that's an actual original photograph of Marianne Faithfull on the cover. So they give you an original photograph. And then there's tons of pictures. And then there's also original autographs. So there's Allen Ginsberg, and yeah, there's original Spencer Davis is on there. So, and they're original. So it was actually signed by there's Carly Simon. So there's about 12 signatures on there.
Wow.
And I got this from my boyfriend because he was on tour with Spencer Davis Group during the making of this book, and the publisher was David Headley, and he was asking Spencer for these stories about the times. And so my boyfriend was kind of tagging along to when they were going to talk about the book on morning shows and stuff. He would be there, and he always said he wanted one of these books, and he never got one. And so for his birthday, I got him one.
Oh, wow, what a gift. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty amazing. You can go
Yeah.
online and check out some of the photographs.
Very cool. Love that.
Yeah.
Well, the book that I have, I finally have finished. I'm sure that nobody has been tracking my progress in this book. It's a very slim, very tiny book, but I have been slowly, very slowly making my way through When Women Were Birds.
Okay.
By
Never heard of
Terry
it.
Tempest Williams. It's a memoir, and it's sort of a how do I say, not a straight narrative. It's more like braided, thematic writing, and very poetic at times. And I want to say that this might have been the first book that I picked up at the beginning of quarantine. It had been next to my on my bedside table for a while, and I thought, you know what, this is the time. This is a quiet time. This is a quiet book. This is perfect. But because of all the things that were happening in the world, I kept picking up other books and just sort of reading other things along the way. I think that I don't know. I just have gone on quite some other journeys. But last night, I finally finished this book. And I've been sharing the last couple of weeks, sharing some of the passages from it. And I thought that I would share, let's see here. I thought I would share this little passage. So the kind of the jumping off point for this book is that she comes from a Mormon family, and when her mother was dying, her mother said, "I leave to you all of my journals." And the author was surprised to hear that her mom had even kept journals. And so soon after her mother passed away, Terry Tempest Williams went to the place where her mother said the journals were, and lo and behold, there they were. I think her mother was 54 when she died, and I think there were 54 journals, and they were all lined up on the shelf very neatly, very beautifully set. And she pulled the first journal off of the shelf and opened it up, and it was entirely blank. And she pulled the next journal off, entirely blank. All of the journals, not a thing written in them. And that is sort of the jumping off point for this exploration of her relationship with her mother. What is the relationship that women have with language, that men have with each other? And it's braided with some other stories. And so I'll just read this little passage. She says, "I have a friend who was once my sister. Now we hardly speak, but she often appears in my dreams. I think of her. The other day I found a beautiful letter she wrote. I miss her terribly. We were undone by a death. Our relationship was its casualty. In deep pain, we killed each other with judgments, so no memory of closeness would remain. And now I mourn another death, the death of a friendship. Another loss, another wound, unspoken. The sin we commit against each other as women is lack of support. We hurt each other. We hide, we project. We become mute or duplicitous, and we fester like boiling water until one day we erupt like a geyser. Do we forget we unravel in grief? So much can come between us, especially in silence. The simplest of misunderstandings becomes a jealousy over time. I have found that what I need most to heal a broken bond is time together. The very thing I avoid is the thing most desired. Unexpressed emotion will be expressed somewhere, somehow, inside or out, most cruelly as unconscious aggression, delivered with a smile or a poisonous cup of tea. I could go on, but I think I'll just leave it there because the passage just goes on. But there's so much going back to your idea of contemplation and just turning over an idea in my mind. I think that that's sort of what this book is. You can read it in little short spurts and just turn it over.
So she was talking about her sister.
Well, here she's talking about
first.
She calls her sister, but she's talking
okay.
about a friend, who was as close as a sister.
So it's not a stereotype that women are like that. That they get jealous and, have these feuds between them. And
do you think it's a stereotype, or do you think it's a true stereotype or a false stereotype or not a stereotype?
Well, it's interesting to talk about because a lot of people in Hollywood, women in Hollywood, they get really upset when the media makes up these fights in between them, and that happens a lot with women.
Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, for example.
Oh, there's a million, these different fights between women. And if you ask those women, they're like, we're not fighting. Like, that's not true. Yeah. And you don't necessarily hear that about men.
Yeah, right.
You know?
The manufactured feuds.
So
the idea that women are, that there's a scarcity, that women, have to fight over scarce resources.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, like women being pitted against each other. It's like something that the theme that came up in Los Angeles. I was so surprised at how supportive women were to other women here in the music community. Yeah. It wasn't like this big, we're going for the same gigs and jealousy and fighting or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. That the community, the music community, actually every music community that despite the media, every music community that I've been in has been like that. It's been more about community rather than competition.
Right.
Is that what you find as well?
Yeah, that's what I've totally found this whole time.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised by that. Also, I was surprised at how nice people were in Los Angeles because it's considered a place that's fake or whatever. And it's like, every place you go to has these different aspects that are negative and positive. It's more about who you align with. So obviously I'm not aligning with the fake society wherever they are in Hollywood that exist. And, I'm not there because I choose not to be. So of course that's going to bring in positivity in your life if you don't, if you're not around negativity like that.
Yeah, they say that you're most like the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right. And I used to be different. It's like I used to hang out with certain people that were not good for me, and it brought me down.
Yeah.
And and I used to have weird relationships with women, getting back to your book, and it's better now because I just feel more at ease with myself. Like I'm not in competition with anyone. It's not like that anymore. I just have a better relationship with people in general, but especially women. It's like I used to have problems with being jealous of women, Sure. I mean, I think a lot of people do. But, when you get older, that kind of falls away when you realize that first, no one's really paying any attention to you. You're not that important. And, everyone has their own struggles and everyone's on their own journey. So, I just found that just having more empathy and reaching out more and just being more helpful is way better than, being judgmental and feeling like you're in competition with whoever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we have to start inside, be that type of person that you want to meet in the world. If you want to meet jealous people, then sure, go ahead and nurture your own jealousy. If you want to be, catty, nurture your own cattiness. But if you want kindness in the world, then be kind. And I think you start to see that reflected. You're reminding me of a song by Dar Williams. I don't remember the name of the song, but the line is, "I will not be afraid of women," and it's all about the thing that you're talking about.
I mean, that's the crux of what the book you're reading is about, right?
No, this book is not about that. This was just a short passage in that book where she's exploring different dynamics between her and her friend, or her and her mother.
What do you think
about her friend?
What do you think the blank pages, what's that all about? What does that represent?
Well, she spends the whole book trying to understand that and exploring, she has these little lines throughout the book. My mother's journals, excuse me, every line starts with my mother's journals. So my mother's journals are an expanding and collapsing universe each time they're opened and closed. My mother's journals are capable of receiving my words because they don't offer their words. Each time in this one that I read just before I got to the part where I was reading about the friend, she has this whole passage, goes on for several pages. She says, "My mother's journals are an act of faith. My mother's journals are a choice. My mother's journals are a glaring truth. My mother's journals are sanitized. My mother's journals are a cruelty. My mother's journals are a writer's block." Like she kind of explores all of these ideas, like all trying to understand. The book is an attempt, in part, to understand why did her mother keep these journals and yet not write anything in them.
Yeah.
What was she trying to communicate or trying not to communicate?
And obviously, she was making a point of, she didn't say, by the way, I have these journals, you can have them, there's nothing in them. Like she knew there was nothing in them, but yet, so that means something.
Yeah. And the daughter doesn't know. So the mother's already dead. She can't ask her.
Yeah.
So she's trying through the writing of this book to have that conversation with her mother, or that conversation with herself, to try to better understand her mother. It's kind of an interesting idea about the relationships that continue even after one person is gone. Even after her mother is dead, her relationship with the mother, just like all of us, our relationship with those people who are no longer in our lives, we still think about them, and we might still have conversations with them and some kind of relationship with them even when they're not there to contribute the other part.
I asked someone to leave me their journals when they pass away. They haven't passed away yet, so I don't have them. but the person that I asked, they asked me why. And I said, because I want to get to know you better.
Mm.
Now, if it was blank, I'd be like, what the fuck?
You'll be able to write your own book about that.
Now, is that nonfiction or fiction?
Yeah, it's a memoir. It's nonfiction.
Oh, okay. It's a true story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So before we're coming up on the hour now, it's been an amazing conversation, but I want to make sure that we get some music in. So would you be so kind as to play a song?
Yes. I want to play a song that I'm finishing up in the studio. This year I'm going to release an EP, and I haven't released music in 3 years, so I'm excited about that. And this is a song that's just getting finished up now. I'm going to take my headphones off.
Go for it. And I'm just going to, while she's doing that, I'm going to put her website up here. You guys can find out more about Cynthia Brando there.
It's called Magical Feeling. What makes you wanna reach out to her from across the room? Is it the magic you feel when you know you found something true? We all wanna feel that way without trying to find the words to say. When life strikes you like a gun, we can either face it or we run from that magical feeling in the air. From that magical feeling in the air. What makes you wanna sacrifice all you have? Is it the feeling that you might lose out on true happiness? We all wanna feel that way, not just living day by day. We all want something more. We can embrace it or shut the door from that magical feeling in the air. From that magical feeling in the air. We all want something more. We can embrace it or shut the door from that magical feeling in the air. From that magical feeling in the air. Magical feeling in the air. From that magical feeling in the air. Hello?
Hello, that was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Na, na, na. So lovely. We had some nice comments as well.
Oh, thank you.
Aw.
I wish I could see them.
Oh,
I'll look back.
Can you see this on the screen?
Yeah, I
Oh,
can
wait,
see that.
Let's see here. What does Susie say?
Oh,
There we
that's
go.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
And then Mark says, Susie, I feel absolutely the same way. So sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Really love seeing
It's
all
a
the
new crowd for
comments.
me.
Yeah, and I want to say hi to Raspin and Sue and
Is Raspin
Gaetan.
there?
Yeah, and
Raspin? He's my best
Bradley.
friend.
What, really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
We're tight.
He is a great guy. Kate and Cherokee and Ashley Quain, Alex, Dave and Arthur Autumn. Nice to see you all. Thanks for being here. Cynthia, that was a lovely song, really lovely.
Thank you.
And I think that we are coming up on the hour, so I'll just take us out with a song and then
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Let's see here. It's been really fun talking with you too. I love those.
Ooh, that's a nice guitar.
This one, this has been my buddy.
Is that a guild?
It's a guild, and this guitar came into my life in the summer of 2001, probably around July, and it's traveled with me all over the country, and we've been buddies ever since. Well, we've had some fights too.
Well, guilds are hardy, so you can knock them against a wall and they're going to be okay.
This one has had a few tumbles. And before I sing this, I also want to just thank Far West for joining me as a media partner for this. Thank you for helping to share this show. We got to get some logos up there, but this all just happened within the last couple days. So, and I'll just share this song. This is The Calling. The freight trains in the distance, we'll hear that whistle blow. We'll see it slipping on the... Whoa, wow. What was that line? Let's try that again. See it slipping like a serpent beneath our sunset glow, and further out the clouds are building up a storm. Throwing bolts of lightning. They say it's gonna pour, and someone's calling someone. I can hear the neighbors ring, but no one's calling. Turn up all the lamps, like a lighthouse at the bay. And tip an empty bottle another lonely day. And off the porch in the clover, on the throw of light, the fireflies are blinking, the coming of the night, like 1,000 tiny torches on a broken down marquee. But no one's calling me. Well, that train knows where it's going. Wow, my mind. There we go. That train knows where it's going. If you make it back around, I'll be sitting in the porch light on the lonely side of town. Closer now, the clouds. It's really gonna pour. It's rumbling with thunder, like the coming of the Lord. And someone's calling someone. Can almost hear that choir sing. No one's calling me. And no one's calling me.
Wow. Oh my God. So beautiful. That's from your album, right? The title track?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. It sure is. You know what happened
That's
in that?
amazing.
Thank you so much. You know what happened in that song is that I use my iPhone as my webcam, as we were talking about earlier. I have a special app, but like a message started popping up on the screen as I was singing into it, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah. This happened to me before
Yeah.
when I'm live streaming.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
other distractions,
I
you know,
know.
like audience distractions are like your ex-lover walks in when you're playing on stage. But now it's like something comes in on a chat.
I know, and I thought I had turned off my, I thought I had put it on airplane mode, but I
Yeah.
think I forgot. So that was my bad. But thank you so much. Thank you, Cynthia Brando, for being here today for episode
Thank you,
36. It's
Arielle.
such
That
a
was so
joy to talk
fun.
with you. Yeah, I look forward to more.
And now I know that I could see the comments because I had it on private chat.
Now you can see all the comments that
Yes.
were going by. Awesome. Very cool. Well, we'll do it again sometime soon. Thank you, Cynthia. And thank you to everyone for tuning in for this episode 36. I'm just having a giggly time here today, but that was a really lovely talk. I love it when my guests, I love, all the different books that come in. It's so cool. And of course, I think it's really important that we continue talking about the creative process, both during COVID and just the normal creative process anyway. So that was awesome to see what she's been up to. I hope you will join me next week for a songwriter who lives in Hawaii. We're going out into the beautiful exotic paradise lands, and we're going to be connecting with Sarah Jelly. She has a new album out, so you can find her. She'll be on my Tomes and Tunes playlist very soon, and if you go to that on Spotify, it's just found.ee/TomesAndTunes playlist. You can find songs from Cynthia and past guests for the show. I want to thank Far West for being a partner in this show now, and excited about what is to come with that. Right now they are doing a series of live chats, live streams with Dan Navarro. He is an amazing songwriter, and just an all-around great guy. And so if you are interested in that, check out the Far West programming, and I'll have some more information for you about that later. Meanwhile, I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you stay safe, take care, be sound. I will see you next week, same time. All right. Bye-bye.